Hey everyone, so Obi-Wan Kenobi just wrapped up, and I thought I'd make a consolidated list of everything new we learned because I feel like a lot of stuff was revealed this season, so I thought it'd be nice to have everything new that we learned all in one place, so let's get right into it. Starting off, we actually get introduced to a few new planets in this series. Though it's not technically new, we did get to see Alderaan for the first time, actually on the planet and the city in live action. In episode 2, we get introduced to Daiyu, which is kind of a seedy underworld planet. This is where there'd be a lot of spice trade and criminals tend to reside, lay low, and pick up new jobs here. In episode 3, we go to Mapuzo, which is a mid-rim mining world planet and also used by the early stage rebellion to smuggle people who were wanted by the Empire. In episode 4, we see the planet Jabiim, which is the headquarters of a newly forming rebellion cell. Also in episode 4, we get a look at Mustafar and its moon Nur, which aren't new to Star Wars, but still cool to see nonetheless. In episode 6, we get what I believe is the planet Tessen, which basically just seems like a giant rock. We were also introduced to members of an early Pocket Cell rebellion group. In episode 2, we get introduced to a new character named Haja on Daiyu, where he's pretending to be a Jedi and smuggles Force-sensitive kids to get them away from the Empire. In episode 3, we get introduced to Tala, who is actually an officer in the Imperial army that had become disenchanted with the methods of the Empire and began working on an underground railroad called the Paths. This was used to smuggle out Force-sensitive people, and many of which were children. The leader of the very flimsy rebellion group is a character named Roken, who was once married to a Jedi after the Purge until she was hunted down and killed, which led him to fight the injustices of the Empire. As for new characters in the Empire, we get introduced to the third and fourth sister, although the fourth sister didn't really have a whole lot of screen time and we learned pretty much nothing about her. She might have had like 3 lines in the whole series. Also, characters where this was their first live-action appearance was the Grand Inquisitor, Fifth Brother, and the Elite Purge Troopers. The story focuses on the third sister, who also goes by Reva, and we learn that she was a Padawan in the temple at the time of Order 66, and she tried fleeing with her friends, though they were all inevitably cut down by Vader. She was even stabbed, though she managed to survive and was picked up by Palpatine along the way, who trained her in the dark side of the Force to become a Jedi-hunting Inquisitor. Of all the Inquisitors, she actually managed to overcome the pull of the dark side in the end and throw her lightsaber into the sands of Tatooine. We can presume for now that she survived and escaped after leaving the Inquisitors, and she probably isn't being hunted because the Empire presumes her dead on Jabiim after Vader stabbed her in the stomach for a second time. We also learned that Tatooine is probably becoming the home of all Kyber crystals, and this is where they just go to die, it seems. 10-year-old Leia is introduced, and we see she's characterized much the same way she is in the original trilogy, and the only thing new we really learn about her was that even as a child, she's passively, unknowingly using the Force. The best example of this is when Reva was trying to interrogate her and she's actually able to resist someone trained in the Force. This is something that even an adult would struggle with, so the fact that a 10-year-old girl is able to block her mind from Reva without any training must mean she is using the Force of some kind. Obi-Wan reveals that he had a brother, and though we don't get much more information on that, I think it's a big addition to the canon and would be really interested to see if that isn't a hook for a future Star Wars spin-off. We also learned that Obi-Wan didn't know Anakin had survived their battle on Mustafar, which isn't really surprising, but it was nice to have that confirmed. One of my favorite things we learned was that Quinlan Vos was confirmed to have survived the Jedi Purge. He was a Jedi that operated in the gray area and also was able to see the memories by touching objects known as psychometry or force echoes. He's actually a really interesting character, and I did a video on him, so if you want to learn more about Quinlan Vos, I'll link it down below so you can check that out. In episode 4, we see the Inquisitors have been taking the bodies of the Jedi they killed and putting them in these pods in a generally horrifying scene. I believe this is alluding to the lore of how Palpatine was experimenting on Force-sensitive beings in an attempt to clone himself. We know that it's very difficult to make a clone of a Force-sensitive, so it makes sense that he would use the bodies for further experiments of already Force-sensitive beings. But I also think these Jedi are currently being displayed as trophies too. It's really the only reason to have them displayed in this manner, lining the walls, each of them looking out as if it was recreating the expressions of the Jedi the moment they were slaughtered. This is something that the Inquisitors probably took pride in, but also a lot of pain. I think seeing and confronting the evil deeds that they've done really had their hatred sink into them further and actually strengthen them in the dark side of the Force. Vader also relieves Obi-Wan from his guilt when he said that Obi-Wan didn't kill Anakin, Vader did. This actually allows Obi-Wan to accept what's happened from the past and move on with his life. He's finally able to see his old master Qui-Gon Jinn in full Force Ghost, and they go off to begin training. That about wraps up all the major things we learned from Obi-Wan Kenobi and even some minor things, and I'm really looking forward to more Star Wars content and seeing how they expand the lore even further from here. But let me know down in the comments if I missed anything. I'm Keegs, and I will catch you all next time for some more Star Wars content.